I'm Stephanie Winfield with the Office of Practice Planning and Local Partnerships at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Please tell us a little bit about, tell us your name, where you work, your role, how long you've been in your position.
My name is Dr. Janine Duran, and I am the chair of the board for the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment. I have been the chair of the board for the past 2 years, and I've served on the board for 4 years. My primary role is to serve as the liaison between the board and the Department of Public Health and Environment.
And my name is Ann Shakini Williams. I am the Deputy Executive Director at the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment. And as a Deputy Director, I pretty much make sure that all the trains are running on time, all the wheels are on the trains, and the trains are on the track for the department. And as part of my job, I get to interact with our board and attend meetings and review agendas, that kind of thing.
Tell us a little bit more about that. How does the board and the department work together?
So the board and the department typically work together, of course, during our meetings and to work through variance requests that we have. We work together to ensure that we are working on community issues that have come up over the years. We work together to ensure that the public that I've seen are getting what they need from the department as well as from the board. And also just to ensure that we are dealing with anything that we're seeing as far as in the community, which I've really appreciated over the past 4 years that I've been serving on the board. So like things that are trending as far as in public health, for example, as far as declaring racism as a public health crisis within the city and county of Denver.
I really believe that one of the most important things we've done together is just really building a foundation and getting to know each other, getting to know our board members, especially getting to know our chair and our vice chair, and they know who we are. They know who our divisions are. We try to give them some general information about each division and what they're up to in a report on a monthly basis, rather than taking time in the meetings, because we have so much business to get to. They have to hear so many things. We do try to provide them with an update just in general. They might not know about a fundraiser for the animal shelter, for example, that they might want to go to. So we found that we need to be keeping them up to speed, building that foundation so we can work together on these harder issues. And fortunately, we have a great board administrator that works with both of us that really kind of bridges the gap and makes sure that the board has everything they need to hear the cases, to review requests, to have robust conversation that feels good to them and feels genuine, I think.
Absolutely.
So the board administrator sounds like they help a lot with the communication. What are some other things that you've put in place to help communication between the board and the department? What other structures have been helpful?
Well, yes, our board administrator definitely helps with communication, but I want to be clear that communication is seamless between myself and the department leadership. So I have numbers in my phone, so I'm able to reach out to our executive director, Bob. He reaches out to me if anything ever comes up. I certainly have him, in my phone, and I just call him and he calls me. We email each other, and we don't have to go between the board administrator in order to have those communications. So we've had multiple things that have come up over the years where we just reach out to one another and we have seamless communication, and we don't have to wait for the board administrator. And I think that communication has been really helpful as things have come up through, with community, and community members may reach out to me and they have a concern about something that may be going on in the department. And so I can reach out to Bob and say, hey, Bob, I just want to put this on your radar. This is how I'm going to respond to this, and this is how I'm going to handle this, so that we can ensure that we are on the same page and we are synergistic within that communication.
So the relationship really is crucial and central to how you work together. What are some of the challenges or successes of this kind of board department relationships?
So I think the challenges and successes would be, number one, based on communication, right? Because as I mentioned before, we've had some things happen with community, and community may not have been happy with perhaps something that's happened. And if there's a division in communication, then they're reaching out to me and they get a certain answer from me, and perhaps they've gotten a different answer from Bob, then we have a division. And that's what we don't want, because we're all on the same team. And we don't need there to be a perception in the community that the board and that the department are on two different pages. So it's important that we have that alignment in communication between us. So a success definitely has been our communication and the way we've been able to become synergistic in our communication. And that certainly came from establishing rapport with one another and trust with one another. And that comes from that process of building teams, right? From that storming, forming, norming, adjourning. You have to go through the processes. So that has certainly been a success. I think a challenge has been a perception that perhaps we may not be on the same page, and that people can divide and conquer. And that's certainly just not the reality. And so if someone is reaching out to me, if someone's reaching out to Bob or to Ann or to anyone at the department, most certainly we are going to make sure that we are in alignment in our communication, and that we're on the same page, because we are definitely on the same team.
A lot of times when I'm attending board meetings, I really try to pay attention to the way cases are presented, especially in appeals or variances. Mm-hmm. And I think about, from a communications perspective, what else the board might need in the future, because I can't change anything that's going in front of them right now. Mm-hmm. When our department's presenting our side of a case, but I can certainly give them tips to try to help them make sure that the board sees the information they need. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just about paying attention and listening. Well, what about this? What about that? Board members ask good questions. This makes us better in our presentations when we're paying attention to that. So the next time they have that information and they're better informed to make the best decision possible. So I've really learned a lot from that process. Mm-hmm. of just listening to what's important to the board members in terms of what the department needs to provide in any situation, any variance, any appeal.
And to Ann's point, we've had the same board members that have been pretty static for the last 4 years. I think maybe we've had turnover from 1 or 2. So I think that the department now can anticipate, because they know our personalities, they know what it is that we're going to ask. So they can now say, Dr. Duran's probably going to ask about community engagement. This person's going to ask about, these technical terms. And so they anticipate where we're going to go with our questions, and they try to address those things up front before they even come before us with the variance request or the presentation or whatever it is that they're going to come before us with. So I think, again, the fact that we have been a team for so long at this point, and we are so synergized, that's really helped.
That consistency really helps, and again, builds on that relationship that you talked about. That's so central to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you share one example of a success story of a task or a project that the board and the department worked on together?
Yes. I think one of the key projects that we worked on that would be a story of success would be the Kiewit I-70 project, and that took place back in 2018. And since I've been a board member, that was the longest variance hearing that I have been a part of, and that meeting took place from about 5:30 until about 1 o'clock in the morning, because there was it was so much community involvement, which was great. We had about 100 people show up for public comment for the Kiewit noise variance hearing. And so that was really my first ushering in to a variance request with the department. So during the Kiewit noise hearing, we got the opportunity to really talk to the department and work with them as far as what our expectations were for board members for processes for community engagement, for community outreach, and how we felt the department should show up when we had variance requests that were going to be really contentious, because this was really contentious, because we were dealing with issues of historical racism, of environmental racism. We were dealing with issues of social justice and human right, excuse me, and human rights, all within this particular noise variant. So it wasn't just a noise variant, which we see that before the department. And so all of these issues bubbled up, and we needed to address all of them, and we did address them. And the department worked lockstep with us to ensure that not just for the Kiewit noise ordinance, but for going forward, that the department would be able to address community engagement efforts and community outreach efforts, and how it was that these particular organizations were engaging with these communities when they wanted to go into these communities to have different variance requests honored. And so it was to me, it was groundbreaking, because this was not something that was happening within the department when different companies were asking for variance requests, especially within marginalized and underserved communities. So it set a precedent, and it's something that the department then required these organizations to do going forward when they were coming to them asking for variance requests. So it was, even though it took us until 1 o'clock in the morning to get there, we got there, and we've been there ever since. And it was just a beautiful example of how, when working together with the department and the board, we could truly make a difference.
I totally agree. And those changes that Dr. Duran spoke about are really important changes. It's critical to have a community engagement and outreach plan when construction companies go into these neighborhoods, into any neighborhood. And they need to be able to talk to residents about what's going on. And these are big companies. They can afford to do that. Especially this project was a great one to work on, because we knew they had the resources to do it. And I believe they were willing, they just needed to be told what to do. And we were able to provide them with a lot of direction and a lot of checks and balances along the way. And I think the project is better for it. And I think the contractor also has learned a lot through the process.
Absolutely. And the community as well. I believe that they really appreciated how the department worked with them, how the board encouraged the department to work with the community as well as with Kiewit, in order to make sure that the community, so we're talking Globeville, Elria, and Swansea, got what they needed.
And it sounds like it really helped also how the department moves forward in working in communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for sharing that example and all of your stories today. Do you have anything else you want to share, or any other tips for other board chairs or department deputies that would be helpful knowing how to navigate this relationship?
So the tips that I have would be that, again, I'm coming up on the end of my 4th year, and I just filled out my application yesterday to renew my term for another 4 years, as I sincerely enjoy serving on the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment. And it started off like, oh, this is going to be a hard one, just because of some of the things that we were dealing with, and it's hard to establish relationships sometimes and rapport. However, I would encourage anyone who is thinking about joining their local board of health to stick with it. Because if you're a person that enjoys policy and enjoys community engagement, and you really have a heart for public health and healthcare administration, and also for healthcare disparities and for social determinants of health for underserved, specialized, and vulnerable communities, you have an opportunity to have a seat at the table and to be able to make some positive change.
And from the department perspective, I believe that department executive directors, deputy directors, even division directors that are engaging with board members, listen to what they have to say. That's why they're there. It's because of their experience, the wealth of experience that they bring with them, from their lives and their work as professionals is so valuable. And just the perspective, just like Dr. Duran was talking about, the community engagement perspective that we really needed to focus on. We do that now, and we've learned so much, and we always learn more. So I encourage other departments around the state to be open, listen, let your board help you, learn from them, and it will make you a better department at the end of the day, and we'll do better with our community service at the end of the day.
Thanks so much for sharing all of this with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.